At the funeral, the priest heard noises coming from the child's coffin opening it. They were shocked. There are chronological cases all over the world where modern medicine and science cannot understand or explain unexpected healings or other inexplicable circumstances that can be called divine miracle. This episode will tell the story of an incident that happened in 2008 in a small village in northern Belarus during the burial of a small child. Hope you will find it interesting. Strange noises were heard coming from the coffin. According to the priest leading the ceremony, he ordered the funeral to be stopped immediately. What happened next has been hailed by many as a real miracle. Anastasia is a charming and attractive girl who lives in a small town in the north of Belarus. She is the daughter of a wealthy family. She was only 18 then, and there were a lot of guys vying for her attention. On the other hand, she rejects them all. She grew up in a strictly religious environment and wanted to keep her virginity until marriage. Besides, she is also looking for a guy who can meet all her expectations. She doesn't quite fit that picture. When girls have been replaced by men. The fact that she found herself in an atmosphere of individuals who shared her views and were also devoted followers didn't happen to her until she attended college in New York. An area larger than an urban area. After graduating from high school, she worked for cross-college ministry, where she met so many wonderful and inspiring people. She prayed with them, went to Mass with them, and met other members of her new Catholic family while she was with them. She also made numerous pilgrimages with the rest of the group to other holy places, including the Polish town of Częstochowa. During one of these excursions, she met a likable young man named Art, and her interest in this young man was evident from the start of their conversation. After a long conversation with him, the young woman had come to the conclusion that he was an excellent prospect for her marriage, as well as the father of her children. Anastasia's first kiss took place on the same trip. Like her first kiss after returning to town, the girl and the guy had a romantic relationship. Soon after, they moved into a small studio near the convent, which served as the administrative headquarters of the ministry. They went to the church together and remained also for the services. Unfortunately, something trauma occurred one day during the events. Anastasia, despite his promise of virginity at marriage, could no longer take it and pull his boyfriend in bed. Whether by coincidence or divine intervention, they are together. The creation of a child was the consequence of that. One night went together. Anastasia, on the other hand, was completely unconscious of her the first time she realized that her body changed. It was when she had 3 pregnant months. She was shocked. She was obvious she was expecting a child. When our team knew it would be a father, he was very happy, despite the fact that he was not ready for paternity yet, and that the couple did not happen too much and did not even married a long time ago. It was sure that everything would train Anastasia, and Artem changed a vote later in August. Priest Miroslav, a founding member of the pastoral ministry, officiated at the wedding ceremony. Everything counts before pregnancy, with a bi-monthly gynecological exam and closure. Supervised by healthcare professionals throughout. She also underwent all additional and mandatory prenatal testing. Doctors found no problem when it was time to give birth to the girl. She and Art went to a Catholic hospital located a few dozen kilometers from home. A nun trained as a midwife was waiting for them when they arrived on the scene. By the time the couple arrived, Anastasia was taken to a private room, where she was monitored for further contractions. Unfortunately, she had no idea that a disaster was about to happen. A final check was carried out by the midwife before the birth. As a result, the baby turned his head a minute ago and is now in the womb with the head turned the other way. But the legs had turned in the other direction. A natural birth that Artem insisted on was inevitable. Under such circumstances, as soon as the child learned about it, he went on a rampage. Caesarean part. Does not want his wife to submit from his preference. She wanted the delivery to be performed spontaneously without using anesthetic according to the God's project, because the child's father refused to consent with a section. They did not advocate the other forms of delivery in his services pastoral care. It was necessary for you to try a natural birth. The midwife did everything she could for the baby's head to fall while she will rise her belly. She expressed hope of a successful birth. Unfortunately, nothing has been successful. Finally, the doctor has been called to help the situation. Unfortunately, it was too late at this point. There was no life indication in the baby. The baby's corpse was brought to the hospital dissection room for review. Anastasia had no chance to kiss his own son before being taken away. The parents were in a state of true mourning. His confusion resulted from his inability to understand what happened. According to doctors, if these sections of cesarean were carried out earlier, the baby would probably have been delivered in good health. Unfortunately, our team fought natural delivery by excessive time duration, resulting in a tragic result. The pair would not have the energy to plan a burial for the beloved. Father Morose Law, who was appointed to the ministry of crucifixion. Anna's funeral service died on the day before, was scheduled for the next day. His parents, on the other hand, were not there despite the fact that she was still recovering from the diarrhea section. Anastasia was in a very bad mental state. Arthem got up and left the hospital at some point. Nobody had an idea where she should be. You have tried to contact you to ask him to accompany him to the cemetery to say goodbye to his son. The young man, on the other hand, did not answer his phone. During the funeral, however, something happens that it is almost impossible to believe that it happened as a group of people gathered in the cemetery. The priest has led a procession of coffins directly instead of funerals as part of his pastoral budget. He bought the best coffin he can find and hired a funeral company to deal with all the documents. When the people who came to the funeral began to lower the coffin at the grave, something extraordinary occurred could only be described as a real celestial miracle. The cries of children could be heard emanating from coffins. Because of this sound from the interior of the priest, Morose quickly closed the burial service and asked everyone to return the coffin to its appropriate place at the top of the building. Then he went to the cemetery and opened his gravestone. Unexpectedly, there was a baby inside his arms and his legs, deploring and shouting, but still alive. Many for the astonishment of all, and the ambulance was sent to the scene and that the tiny angel was transported to the children's intensive care unit. He was discovered in the hospital that the child is in good health. It was a little hypoxic when he was discovered for the first time, but after a few days in an incubator, he retrieved completely. But why was he still alive? Why did the doctors pronounce the baby dead despite the fact that he was still alive? It was a question that no one could provide an answer. Doctors responsible for determining the cause of death maintained that they had no reason to believe in something else. The baby did not breathe and had no impulse. Its resuscitation must have something in the order of a divine miracle. When learning the truth about what happened, Anastasia collapsed in a crisis attack. She went to see her son as soon as she could. Once she recovered, she sat down by the incubator with her first daughter born. Keeping throughout the day, and at the same time, she expressed her gratitude to God to bring back her son to the world. Unfortunately, the father of the child, Arthem, disappeared without trace after leaving the country. He never saw or heard from the young woman. The boy has never been informed that his son was still alive. According to reports, he has been seriously disrupted by the fact that he was not born. It was only natural that he felt worried about knowing what more. For some reason, the Belarusian authorities were very careful to keep these news about the raps. In the following days, any reference is excluded from the internet. It appeared for the first time in web forums only for time, and since then extended in the rest of Europe. Why have the authorities of this nation have to maintain the facts on this hidden public incident? We can only make educated assumptions. That's for today. What are your thoughts on this story? If you found this helpful, send it to your friends and family. Meanwhile, stay heated and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching. Please enjoy and share the video on social networks. We will come back as soon as possible.